Judges Fox and Norman presiding. Please be seated. This court will come to order. We are in the court today to hear the case of the people versus Meursault. Will the prosecution team please stand and introduce yourselves?
My name is Janessa Zamora.
I'm Cheyenne McLean.
And I'm Gabriel.
Please be seated. Will the defense team please stand and introduce themselves?
I'm June Choi.
My name is Mark Mariano.
I'm Christian Alvason.
Please be seated. Meursault, will you please stand? Oh. Please state your name for the court.
Officer Meursault.
You are charged with murder in the second degree. Do you understand the charges against you?
Yes.
How do you plead?
Not guilty.
The defendant has consented to a trial by jury. We are in a position to proceed with the trial today. The defendant may be seated. Prosecution may now make their opening statement.
May it please the court, Your Honor, fellow counselors, and members of the jury. Good morning. It is my pleasure to serve as a prosecutor for this very important case. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a case about an individual who displayed a blatant disregard and disrespect for life. One sweltering afternoon, on a beach in the outskirts of Algiers, an Arab man was shot in cold blood and killed on the spot by the defendant who sits here among us today. This was an act done in an unfeeling manner, out of indifference and out of sheer carelessness. This man did not feel an ounce of remorse for what he had done, even when the damage had already been inflicted. He was only thinking of himself in that very moment that he decided to pull the trigger. This man is not bound by any morals, no. He is a sociopath who did not care for the life that he so carelessly took.
Thank you. The defense may now make their opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good evening, Your Honors, opposing counsels, members of the jury. My name is June Choi, and these are my co-counsels, Mark Mariano and Christian Alvason, and we represent the defense in this trial. Now, we are here today because our defendant, Monsieur Meursault, has been wrongly accused of second-degree murder of an Arab man. But today, the facts and the evidence will show you that he is not guilty, and that he will indeed be justified from this trial. Today, you will also see the prosecution side to make it seem as if our defendant, Monsieur Meursault, did indeed premeditatedly kill the Arab man. But the facts and evidence show that he did not kill the Arab man out of pure intent, but only in the acts of self-defense. In fact, we will even present you the noxious weapon the Arab man used to attack our defendant, Monsieur Meursault. Now, members of the jury, you will hear from 6 defense witnesses in which they will all testify about the harmless and guiltless persona about our defendant, Monsieur Meursault, in which this case can only prove his innocence in this case. You will also hear from 5 opposing witnesses on the prosecution side, on which they will testify on how our defendant, Monsieur Meursault, is an indifferent man. A man without morals. A man that can solely and fully be responsible for the premeditated murder of an Arab man. But those mere morsels of evidence presented by the prosecution is not simply enough to prove our defendant, Monsieur Meursault, guilty. He is not. At the end of this trial, on behalf of the defensive team and I, we ask you to deliver a verdict. A verdict that speaks the truth. The only verdict that brings justice to this table. The verdict that determines our defendant, Monsieur Meursault, not guilty.
Prosecution will now call their first witness.
The prosecution calls the director of the home, Paris Francais, to the stand. So Meursault's mother, we refer to her here as Mama. Did Mama ever complain about living in the home?
Actually, Mama was very happy in her home. She was surrounded by people who were her age, who off with her. She even had a welfare team call in her home, and she was very happy. And when I did meet with Meursault, she was very standoffish. She wasn't expressive, and that just showed me that she was not very sociable with me with her.
So would you agree that she had been more comfortable in your home rather than she was with her own son?
Of course, fully.
The prosecution would like to call the caretaker of the home, Eiffel T. Howard, to the stand. So you would say that Meursault was bored at his mother's funeral, bored at seeing any of the people that were around him, to the point that he wanted to pass the time and slept at his funeral instead of being attentive at his mother's.
Like I said, just knew that he just came there for one purpose, was for his marriage to go over.
No further questions, Your Honor.
So even though you did accept a cigarette as a kind gesture, you still did have to take a time out of your day to socialize with him. Therefore, you saw some sort of bond between you and him, correct? So do you believe that there's a possibility that perhaps maybe this was just a social gesture and not any acts of violence or anything towards his mother, or disrespect towards his mother? No further questions, Your Honor.
The prosecution would like to call the magistrate of the court, Escar Go, to the stand. Now, can you describe the interaction itself, if there's anything peculiar that you can recall?
Like I said, Meursault seemed elsewhere. He didn't take our meetings seriously at first, but he learned his place soon. He was more quiet than other criminals, which was peculiar.
Now, was there anything significantly positive or negative that you can remember from your interaction with him?
He was withdrawn from society. He lacked any emotion. He didn't show any emotion towards when I questioned him about his mother and his religion. He didn't show any care for those.
The prosecution calls the chaplain, Craig Croissant, to the stand. So you would say that he was indifferent to the idea of death in any case, himself or others?
Yes, very good.
Would you connect this to the idea that Meursault, our defendant, had the same thought when he was at the position to kill the Arab man, that when he was about to kill the Arab man, he had thought that his actions would have no consequences, as well as that he will only cease to exist?
Objection, leading.
Please explain yourself further.
Our prosecution is suggesting that past experiences with our chaplain suggest that same intentions were at the time of the murder.
Sustained.
No further questions, Your Honor. Prosecution would like to call our final witness, Thomas Perez.
Was it true that you were really sad and emotionally overwhelmed? And was it true that you cannot tell whether or not anyone else was emotional because you were too emotionally overwhelmed? So how then can you have noticed the behavior and specific actions and reactions of Meursault to his own mother's funeral if you were too caught up in your own emotion and grief? Please answer the question. No further questions, Your Honor.
The prosecution may now address the response. The defense may call their first witness.
The defense would like to call Celeste. How would you describe the defendant?
He was always polite and respectful, and if I didn't believe he was a good person, I wouldn't have pursued a friendship with him.
For our next witness, the defense would like to call Masson to the stand. So I'd like to make a point to the court that our witness here, who met with the defendant on the day of the incident, stated that the defendant was very well-mannered and that he did not hit at any violent behavior.
The defense would like to call to the stand Marie.
He came up.
So you could suggest that Meursault was always friendly with you.
Yes, he was always very friendly and very affectionate towards me.
Did he ever try to harm you in any way?
Never.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance?
Overruled.
Yes.
How often do you see Monsieur Meursault?
Pretty much almost every day.
So you could say both of you are friends, correct?
Yes, very much so.
Did he ever seem to act aggressive towards you?
No.
Was there any ever incidents where Meursault tried to stop you from making an impulse decision?
Yes, it was the day where, it was the day where he shot the,
Meursault, please come to the stand.
Can I ask you why you did take that gun?
I noticed he was a little uneasy and upset, and I didn't want him to do anything to regret.
So what would you say was your motive for shooting him in the first place? Just he was attacking you, or is there any other?
I think it was definitely defense. He pulled the knife out within stabbing distance, and honestly.
But do you think that this initial shock gave you the right to kill a man and take his life from him?
That's not what my motive was driven by.
But what do
Motive.
guns do?
They kill, but so do knives.
What do 5 gunshots do?
Kill him, definitely.
So, but your motive wasn't to kill him.
My motive was to protect myself.
The 5 gunshots,
Yes.
which you just stated, kill people.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
The defense may redirect questions if they like.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Meursault may be dismissed. The prosecution may now make their closing statement.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, hear us when we say that actions most definitely speak louder than words. We have proven that Meursault is a cold-blooded killer.
May I please the court? Opposing counsels, members of the jury. This case is about the prosecution trying to find our defendant, Monsieur Meursault, guilty.
Jury foreman, please read the verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant
Meursault guilty of murder in the second degree.
Meursault is found guilty of murder in the second degree. He will be sentenced to prison for 50 years or life. Thank you for your service and court dismissed.
Wallace,
This is a retrial?
Yes,
So
this
it's
is a
after?
this is called